Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the presentation to my research project for Aurora University Spring 2021. The math course is 6701, section 01. First of all, the author's profile. My name is Antonio Contreras. I'm a mathematics teacher at a local high school. I currently teach just geometry, but I have taught algebra and some variations of both, such as algebra for repeating students and extended geometry. I hold a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics and Education from the same institution, Aurora University. To begin with, the thesis statement. When I completed my undergrad and started teaching, I felt curious and intrigued about the current strategies on homework. As I talked to some of my colleagues, I realized a big discrepancy. I noticed that I was attempting to compare math, which is considered a science, versus, say, English, which is an art. After some thoughts, I realized that completion doesn't seem to fit a science-based class, such as geometry, chemistry, etc. Based on those thoughts, I formulated the following thesis statement: as daily homework greater than accuracy leads to higher test scores. First, the introduction, which is split into 3 pieces. The purpose of homework. Here, I describe the process that teachers had when they prepare homework in the past. For instance, teachers will teach a piece of theory, then they will assign a couple problems for homework. The student will take those problems home, solve them, turn them in the next day. The teacher will grade them, and that would be their grade for their homework. However, in today's world and society, the process has changed. Next, the connection between homework and test. Many studies agree that homework must support test. In other words, homework has the responsibility to prepare the student for the test in order to achieve a higher grade. And ultimately, the question becomes whether or not to use accuracy in order to grade the homework. Second, the literature review. There exists many research similar to my thesis. Some compare homework with standardized tests, such as studies from the US and Europe. There seems to be a clear distinction between Asian and European views on homework. For instance, many Asian studies do believe that homework is very important, whereas European studies tend to be a little more lenient on the idea of homework. Others focus on homework practices rather than accuracy. And adding to the homework strategies, some other research also discusses culture and parental involvement as a big factor in order to have success for the students. However, I could not find a pure study that compared accuracy and completion. Next, methodology. The study contains 386 students and 7 participating teachers in an urban high school in Illinois. The subjects that these students were taking at the time of the study are Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus at various levels, regular, honors, just to mention a few. The study is considered quantitative due to the homework and test collection grades, using the school-approved website, Infinite Campus. In order to keep the study as pure as possible, teachers use their normal routine and classroom strategies. Teachers were asked to provide gender, grade level, homework and test averages, as well as method, in this case meaning accuracy or completion. I will expand on the conclusion slide, but as we know, COVID affected the data collection, and thus we do not have the data for a whole semester. Now, the results. First, the analysis on the thesis question. Table 1 shows a Welsh two-sample t-test, where we see the means for accuracy and completion. Notice the t-stat is around 1, meaning the groups are similar. Then I establish a p-value less than 0.05 in order to conclude significance. However, as you observe, homework is 29%, test is around 44%, and thus we don't have enough evidence to have significance in this test. With our additional data, we run a secondary test. This one compares male accuracy versus female completion and female accuracy versus female completion using the same statistical test. Notice the p-value shows a similar outcome compared to the primary test. The only exception that we observe is the female homework. That's the only test where we seem to have significance. However, I will discuss a little further on the conclusion part why this is not enough to conclude significant overall. Another secondary result that we conducted is the 10th grader accuracy versus 10th grader completion and 11th grader accuracy versus 11th grader completion using the same test as well. However, we observe significance based on the p-value. However, we're going to discuss a little further again on the conclusion slide why we cannot trust this p-value and why it could be a problem to trust significance. But before we do that, before we go to the conclusion, let's talk about some limitations in this study. COVID played the biggest obstacle on the data collection. Teachers were forced to cut the data at the end of third quarter around spring break due to remote learning. Next, the school demographics also played a limitation. The high school where the study took place has an over 80% of students of Hispanic and Latino background. And being a high school in the Midwest, it's also a limitation since it's only one location of the country. Also, the study happens to contain mostly sophomores and geometry students. This means we have a low representation from the other grades, freshman, junior, and senior, as well as other mathematics subjects. Finally, there existed a tendency for using accuracy on the lower level classes, such as algebra and geometry, and completion on the upper level classes, such as algebra 2 and pre-calculus. And now the conclusion. So as we discuss on the results of the primary slide, there is not enough evidence to conclude that accuracy leads to higher test scores compared to completion. The secondary result has a similar outcome to the primary results, with the only exception on female homework. However, since it's only one of the 4 tests that show significance, more research is needed in order to fully say that there is a significance in terms of gender. The final secondary result on grade level have no strong evidence since we don't have enough samples. In other words, we are lacking 10th graders under the completion category, as well as 11th graders under the accuracy category. So therefore, we will need more research where we have a more balanced amount of students under both categories and not to be misrepresented. And then to end the presentation, the study aims to help teachers decide their homework grading style, whether they want to use accuracy or completion under structure. And if I had the chance to complete the study one more time, or if I have to recommend the study to different researchers, I'll recommend using more high schools, maybe from different areas of the country, or even from other countries as well. In this case, we will see a greater diversity of students and backgrounds. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching my presentation. Have a great day.